He's the Hall of Famer, Bill Walton, and it's called Throw It Down with Bill. How would Bill Walton say this, Seton?
Throw it down.
Throw it down.
One time.
Throw it down.
Down, big man. Throw it down. Please, I came here to see somebody throw it down, and all they're doing is shooting jumpers out there. Let's go.
So
Dan Patrick, our hero, the standard of excellence, the search for perfection. Yeah, it all comes to be. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Bill. Seton's been working on his Bill Walton impersonation. You want to give us a little Grateful Dead feel here?
Wake now, Dan, and discover that you are the song the morning brings, recognizing that everything has led up to this day, and yet it's a day unlike any other that's ever been. We will survive. We will get by. Get up. Get off. Get out the door, my friends.
And throw it down.
Throw it down, big man.
Get up, get on, get out the door. There's a fire on the mountain. We had the volcano stoker last night. Jason Benetti, Tim Sullivan did a remarkable job. The whole team was over the top. Dome Productions in conjunction with the NBA. But I just want to know if Seton is that the Seton for Seton Hall, and was he using Chat GPT to come up with that script?
That is Seton for Seton Hall, as a matter of fact. Yeah, my dad went there.
Well, fantastic. You're like Bobby Hurley there, naming his children Cameron. And
that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Seton didn't get into Seton Hall.
Really?
My son would be named Mountaineer.
Yeah, he went to West Virginia. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm named Bill. I'm named after my dad. And my dad was the greatest dad ever. He had zero interest in sports. I never talked sports with him. I never watched sports with him. I never played sports with him. But I let him down. I let him down because I was 23 when we had our first child, Adam, who was here yesterday, lived up the street. And my dad, I'm the third, and my dad wanted a fourth. And I was not old enough. I was not mature enough to want to burden one of our children with my name. Oh. And then the other time was when the end of the line for my dad, and I was running the show there for everybody and everything, because we just lived 10 minutes away from my parents' home. And my dad was in and out of the hospital a lot at the very end. He was 83 years old. And he kept telling me, Bill, I don't want to die in the hospital. I don't want to die in the hospital. And so we were always calling 911. They were all our friends. It all grew up a very close community where I come from. And so the paramedics were always there, in and out, taking my dad back and forth to the hospital. And this one time, I was there, and we called 911. And my dad said, Bill, I don't want to go to the hospital. I don't want to die in the hospital. I thought we could still save him. They put him in the ambulance. I had the ambulance door, and he's looking at me, and he's got tears in his eyes. And he said, I don't want to go to the hospital, Bill. But I closed the door. The ambulance went off. I followed it to the hospital, and he never got out. And it was something that I wish I had known better. When my mom passed a year ago, I knew better. I was just in my early 50s when my dad passed. So it was 19 years ago. How you doing, Dan?
Let's cheer it up a little bit here.
Yeah, let's pick this thing up. Let's throw it down one time.
If you didn't go to UCLA, where were you going?
UCLA.
There was no second choice.
No second choice. And I'm reading a brilliant book right now. I know you're a reader and you love books and knowledge and everything. One of my teammates, the winningest player in the history of college basketball, Larry Farmer, got a brand new book out, Santa Monica Press. It's called The Role of a Lifetime. And Larry's experience was totally different than mine. And although in many ways it was totally similar, because we played for the same coach. He was the starter for 2 years on our first two championships there, undefeated, never lost a game with Larry in the starting lineup there. And he played with Sidney Wicks in his sophomore year, an era of 3 years of college basketball. And it's just a beautiful read. And it's a fun, upbeat, happy book. And all the different things that went down, and the way that Larry's able to turn the phrase to make it so real, so inviting, so enveloping, which was what UCLA was all about. And so many spectacular people. And yes, we had John Wooden, as great a coach as there's ever been, but we also had J.D. Morgan, as great an athletic director as there's ever been. We had Chancellor Young, who was the chancellor at UCLA for 29 years. I mean, that's a job that just chews people up and spits them out in public education. And then we had Ducky Drake. Ducky Drake got there in 1923 and he died in 1988. And I can't even do the math anymore. I think that's 65 years. But he was the trainer. He was the track coach. He was Rayford Johnson and C.K. Yang's coach. But he was the conduit that understood young people's problems and was able to be the sounding board and be the buffer between Chancellor Young, J.D. Morgan, John Wooden, and all the players. It was a phenomenal experience for me. I wish it had lasted forever.
What would you have made with name, image, and likeness at UCLA?
I was doing a show one time with Kareem, and we got to the Q&A, and they asked Kareem, we always defer to Kareem, the greatest player I ever played against, the standard of excellence. And so we'll get to Kareem and his records and LeBron in a moment, but we're sitting there and it goes to the Q&A and they said, Kareem, if you had played in the era of NIL, what would you have made? And he looked at me and he looked back at the crowd and he said, Europe. and then he looked over at me and he said, and Bill would have got South America. And so as I was watching LeBron's game the other night, just his last game, I don't know exactly when they're playing again, but I saw him play against the Blazers. I was prepping for Throw It Down, Spurs at Blazers, and I'm watching this guy, and it was, I think it was 20 years ago, or maybe even more, when he first started at St. Mary's, St. Vincent's. And we went over there and to Cleveland State and did that first game when he was in high school. We did a second game when he was playing at Pauley Pavilion, because it was so spectacular when he was 18 years old. And now here he is. I believe he's 38 now. And what he was doing in that game at 38 years old, Dan, he is not backing into this record.
No.
I mean, this is a staggering accomplishment of everything.
But did you think Kareem's record would ever be broached?
You always think that. I mean, I was there when Wilt was setting all his records, right? And then Kareem starts catching him, right? And Wilt was fantastic. And Wilt was a huge influence in my life. I've been the luckiest guy in the world. And so when Kareem was coming up and Wilt would get super mad in my early days of broadcasting for the Clippers when I would talk about Wilt's records. This was, in the 90s and early 90s and 33 years ago now. And I would always refer to it, as when Wilt would miss 5,000 free throws in his career. And Wilt would call me and say, hey, Billy, don't talk about that. If I thought that was important, I would have made them. Right? And then when Kareem was coming to pass him and break his records, Wilt, he would say to all of us, and these were, personal conversations, because Wilt was just an incredible human being. He was a combination, personality-wise, of Magic Johnson and Santa Claus. And so when you would ask, when you would be talking and Kareem was coming up, and the level of skill, talent, dedication, determination, durability that it takes to do something like that is just off the charts, indescribable. And so as Kareem is, inching up and going to get there, and I was watching the game when Kareem swung the sky hook in Mark Eaton's face and hit it in Las Vegas. And so Wilt would say, Billy, if I thought anybody was ever going to break my records, I just would have doubled them up. Because, in those days, a lengthy career was 10, 12, a dozen years, 13 years. And, today's players, this is to take nothing away from today's players. These guys are spectacular. The level of physical fitness. And one of the things that just blows me away about LeBron is that here he is, 38, and he is still the most active guy in the game. And he is running so fast and attacking the rim and throwing it down. And then he shoots jumpers. And when I watch LeBron, I can never figure out what the best part of his game is. I mean, here's a guy who in any particular moment, any particular game, any particular event, he can be the best shooter, the best passer, the best dribbler, the best rebounder, the best defender, and the best shot blocker, the best screener, the best decoy. He can do everything out there, and he's still doing it as well, if not better than anybody else. In the game at Portland on Sunday night, which the Lakers started off with a 14-point lead in the early moments, and then they were behind by 25 points at halftime. And so I kind of drifted away to something else. And then I keep looking at my phone, all following the scores every night. And then I see it's a game again. And then the Lakers win it going away. Now they got Rui Hachimura. Yeah. So it's wow, anything is possible. In the NBA today, if you win 4 games in a row, you're skyrocketing up the standings because everybody is so bunched in and nothing's been determined yet.
But is there too much scoring, Bill? It's almost like baseball where there's too many home runs and there's too many three-pointers.
No, it's fine. It's what the rules are. And the scientists, and this was Mike D'Antoni, who saved basketball.
Would the game be better if we removed the three-point line?
No. I love the three-point line, and it was so fantastic. I remember one night we're playing, in the early days of the three-pointer, was started in '79, and rest in peace, Chris Ford, who just passed away, made the first three-pointer. And so we're playing in the Boston Garden, and I'm not really playing. I'm sitting on the bench cheering for Larry and Kevin and Chief and DJ and Danny, and Larry's having a monster game. And the Boston Garden is just rocking. It's against the Knicks, and Hubie Brown is coaching, and Patrick Ewing and Bernard King and all these guys, right? An excellent team, but certainly not the Boston Celtics with Larry Bird and Robert Parrish and Kevin McHale and DJ and Danny and the second string that we had. And the crowd is going crazy. Larry, MVP. I mean, the scoreboard is shaking, right? And Hubie, who was the coach of the Knicks at the time. Now, Hubie, as the broadcaster at 89, and really ever since he became the broadcaster, has been the model of decorum. Right? But when he was the coach, I mean, he was a firebrand over there, and he loved to yell at his own players. And when that didn't work, he started yelling at us, the other team. And so Larry's making 3 after 3, and the ball rolls out of bounds right to Hubie Brown, who picks up the ball. And normally you just throw it back to the ref. And Larry comes running over there because he doesn't want the game to stop, right? And Hubie won't give Larry the ball, right? And Larry's like trying to grab it, and the ref comes over, what's going on here? And the crowd is just stunned and everything. And finally, Larry, does get a hold of the ball, but Hubie still won't give it up. The referee comes in, separates them, and Hubie looks at Larry and says, "Oh, yeah, Bird, yeah. You think you're so good making all these threes and firing this crowd up here and torching the Knicks here on a Friday night in the Boston Garden. You think you're so good, Bird, making all these threes? Let's see you bank one of those threes in." And Larry looked at like Al Pacino from Taxi Driver. I hope I got Al and Robert De Niro.
De Niro.
Which one was it?
Yeah, De Niro.
Oh, De Niro. Okay,
Yeah.
It was Robert De Niro for Taxi. And Larry looks at Hubie like he's the taxi driver, right? He says, you're talking to me? And Larry who was already so on fire, he grabs the ball from the ref, throws it in, gets it right back, right in front of Hubie, like a foot from the sideline where the coaches stand, right? Looks at Hubie and banks in a 3. And then he spends the rest of the game banking in every 3. Every time you just glare over at Hubie, you're looking at me, you talking to me. Oh my God. The NBA today is superb. These players are staggeringly fit. These players are staggeringly skilled. I mean, the dribbling, the passing, the shooting, the rebounding, and it's just, they're all so gifted, and with the selection of the players and the development and what BAL, what the Africa initiative is between the NBA Academy, the BAL, and Basketball Without Borders, which is, these are global things. But right now, 25% of the NBA, 25% is international players. Fantastic. And David Stern, he's responsible for that. And what we all did going around the world teaching the game of basketball in the 90s. Our basketball, they had the business guys, the marketing guys, the media guys, the organization guys. But the basketball team was Jack Ramsey, Hubie Brown, Calvin Murphy, and me. And we got to go everywhere once a month for a week. And it was just absolutely fantastic. And now you've got players like Dirk Nowitzki, and you've got players like Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili from all over the world, and Boris Diaw. And, the globalization has been absolutely fantastic. And the money. David Stern took a game and turned it into a business that's now generating $10 billion a year. And, our guests last night, Phil Knight, we had Dr. J, Phil Knight, and Adam Sandler. They were all just brilliant. But as David Stern, the most important man in the history of all basketball, never took a shot, but he made the game into a business. And then Phil Knight, the most important man in the history of all sports, because he did that for all sports. And Nike by itself makes more money every year than the NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball, hockey, and the NCAA combined. And it's just incredible what they've been able to do, the business, the growth. You look back at the numbers and the skyrocketing graphs, the hockey stick graph, and it's just phenomenal. And we're so grateful. We're so happy.
He is Bill Walton, the Hall of Famer. It's called Throw It Down with Bill Walton. It streams exclusively on NBA League Pass. The next matchup is Raptors-Suns. That'll be Monday night.
In the desert. Let's go.
Hey, it's great to see you. I'm glad you're doing well.
I love Dan Patrick. Thank you for having me. Thank you for your patience. Yes.
Thank you. But Seton, do you want to say goodbye to Bill Walton as Bill Walton?
Mr. Walton, we just keep on rolling. Just a mile to go.
Roll away the dew. Yeah. If my words did glow like the gold of sunshine.
Thank you,
Very
Bill.
well, triple in still water, where there is no pebble tossed, nor wind to blow. Thank you for having me. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for my
Billy.
life.
That is
I love you, Dan.
Bill Walton, Hall of Famer.
He's the best, man.
Hall of Famer.
I love him.